Good evening, everyone. It's a little bit after 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you're a registered voter and you plan to vote and participate, it's important that you're sitting in the green chairs so that your card can be seen and your vote can count. Town of Acton, Maine warrant to Robert Anderson, a citizen of the Town of Acton. In the name of the state of Maine, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of said Town of Acton qualified to vote in town affairs to assemble at the Acton Elementary School, 700 Milton Mills Road, Acton, Maine, on October 30th, 2024, at 6 o'clock p.m. to vote on the following articles. Article 1, to choose a moderator for said meeting. Nominations for moderator are open. Richard Nass has been nominated. Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, moderator does have to be voted on by written secret ballot. We need a minimum of 3 people to vote. If you'd like to vote outside of those 3, raise your hand. Not with this. People in front. Anybody else want to vote for moderator? Good job. I, Richard Nass, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state, so long as I shall continue to citizen thereof. I, Richard Nass, do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent upon me as the moderator of a special town meeting according to the Constitution and laws of the state. So help me God.
I don't want to not be able to see somebody, especially Judy. Thank you all for coming tonight. So, special town meeting, we got a few articles to deal with. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Cameron, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody stand up, pledges. So the flag is up this way. Right there, the microphone.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cameron. Okay, unless there's objection, we're going to function under the guidance of the Maine Municipal Association's Moderator's Manual, which is this. We actually have a new one. For years we functioned with one that was really old. Now we're working with one that was issued in 2021. Didn't change at all. Maine Moderator's Manual. I hear no objections, so that's going to be the rules of the game. We have a couple of folks who may want to speak tonight who are non-residents. And again, and these are Lauren Hazenkamp, and Jennifer Rue. And if there's no objection, we'll just assume that they can speak if there's a reason for them to speak. Again, hearing no objections, we're going to go with that. And most important, or even more important, when you all came in, you all got this purple card. When it comes time to vote, it's going to be the purple card that is your ticket to voting. Whether we're voting by hand or written ballot, purple card is your notice that you're eligible to vote. So whether you come up here to vote, or whether you're just holding your hand up, it's the purple card that's going to allow us to count you as a voting person. Okay. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to expend monies from from the approved contingency fund of $31,312 previously allocated to the municipal management for any town department as they deem advisable to support operations in the current fiscal year. Is there a motion on Article 2? Leslie?
I make a motion to accept Article 2 as written.
The move to adopt Article 2 is written. Is there a second? Second. Dennis? Are there questions or comments on Article 2? Mary? Coming up to the mic, tell us who you are.
Hi, is this working?
It is.
Okay. I'm sorry I missed the public hearing, but if you can explain why it seems very specific at $31,312.
Question about the amount. That doesn't sound like the book. Is there an on button there? No? Wait a minute.
As you may recall, for the current fiscal year budget, what was approved was an actual reduction to the town portion of the budget over the prior fiscal year. The Selectmen and Warrant and Finance Committee had made efforts to go through and reduce the budget. As you may recall, we had some surpluses. Well, as we reduced that budget, it was the first year that we had done that, and we thought it would be appropriate to put in place a contingency fund in the event there were unforeseen items that might not have been properly captured. I suspect this will be something we'll see in the future. That contingency was placed into the municipal management portion of the budget. And what this article would do is allow the selectmen to authorize the use of that contingency fund for any town department. Now, had that been in place, we probably would not need to vote on some of the warrant articles that are before you tonight, because unfortunately they're in like the transfer station accounts. So we could, if this article were approved in the future, use it to fund any overdraft or over expenditures there may be.
Additional questions or comments on Article 2? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt Article 2 as written. All those in favor of the motion, raise your purple cards. Thank you. Hands down those opposed. Article 2 passes as written. Article 3. See if the town will vote to appropriate a total of $10,490 from the unassigned fund balance to ratify the overdrafts in the transfer station account for fiscal year 23-24. Select Board recommends approval. Warrant Finance Committee recommends approval 6-0. Leslie?
I make a motion to approve the article as written.
Is there a second? So moved and seconded. Joe? Second? All right, comments or questions on Article 3? Dennis, are you coming up? Robin? Sorry. Dennis is done. No, I don't want you to. We're happy to hear from Dennis.
Okay, this is my overlook. I would like to see what would happen if I did catch it or somebody else caught it. What would we do with the transfer station? Would we shut it down or keep it open and have another special town meeting? This is for the next guy coming in, so he'll know what to do and what not to do.
So what is it? I'm not sure what the question is.
The question is, what's the town supposed to do if the transfer station goes over?
Okay. Okay.
And
Can anyone answer the question?
So would this be prior to the end of the fiscal year,
yeah,
your question?
well, it would be whenever it came, when we found out that we would overdraft, you know,
Okay.
if we would have found out, if I would have found out in June, when meeting was there, end of June, the bills came in, I didn't catch it, my fault, but what would we do if that comes up to here.
If there was enough time in the year, we could cut back on services to
Okay?
allow for us to not overspend,
Okay.
okay?
That's the question.
But in this, this particular case, these bills came in after the end of the fiscal year when we, according to our accountant, it looked as though we had 14,000 still in the account.
Correct.
So, I mean, this came in over,
Right.
after the fact.
And it was all in demo and stuff like that.
Yeah, demo, hauling.
Right.
Yeah, Mountain Valley Tech for upping out the Freon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There were several things, you
Yeah.
know, that
yeah, Pine
went
Tree
into
Waste.
that, but mostly
Right.
it was the demo.
The demo was
going
what,
into town.
yeah, the demo was the
Biggest thing.
biggie, because
Yeah.
this particular year, we got a tremendous amount of demo in.
Right, absolutely.
So,
You know,
and you can
I
contest
can
that, so,
attest to that.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that
Sure.
everybody understands, you know, yeah, it was part of my problem because I was supervisor, but, you know, I just want to ask the question, what are we going to do if this comes up again to the next one?
well, I think I can almost guarantee that we're going to be keeping a really close eye on the dollars up there. Because we know that particular part of the town is hard to judge. It's hard to make a budget on. You don't know how much you're going to get for demo. You don't know how much you're going to get for municipal solid waste, for trash bags. So the best thing you can do is take your back years of history and try to forecast. This past year, we also were hit with a price increase on the hauling, which is something we're looking at now, because we're looking at doing a contract for the hauling to try to soften that. We're also doing, we're part of a 3-county group that on the disposal side, it's like a consortium, if you will. We all go in together, try to get the best pricing out of these companies that we can get. And the contract comes up June of '25. Right now, we're in the midst of going through the contracts and seeing if we can't get a really good price, and hopefully get that in place prior to that, with a better price than we're paying now.
My next question.
If I could follow up.
Keep,
No, go ahead.
I know, what the questions are coming to me, okay, and then we'll go.
Okay, yeah.
So, Tom, go ahead.
I think there are two additional options were the transfer station or any department to find themselves in deficit. Obviously, the first thing we would do is look within that department, as Ed had said, and see if we can find opportunities for reduction. There may be an opportunity, like tonight, to have a special town meeting. If we felt it would impair services to the point that might not be favorable to the town, we have an option to bring it to a special town meeting. And in this year, we have a contingency. So we have $31,000 in contingency that we could, the select board could take action on. So I think there are 3 possibilities.
Say, okay, my next comment is that department brought in roughly $35,000 last year. My recommendation would be that money that comes in, put a percentage of that. It would be like a contingency fund, but it would be just that department that brings in, you know, it brought in $35,000 last year. In the last 3 years, we brought in $151,000. Just something to think about.
The only problem with that is we have a number of departments in the town that does bring in money, like the
Okay, why
transfer
can't you do
station.
it for all of them?
Well, the problem
10%.
there is, it doesn't quite give the department heads the
You still
push they need to stay within their budget.
Rob, give him a chance to finish.
It gives them too much of a, there's no good way of saying it, but too much of a loophole, if you will. Everything that comes in goes into the general fund, and then this is how we disseminate it from there. And it's the most transparent way to do it. It's the best way to do it. The contingency fund is just a small way of taking care of some of the minor things, or something big that comes up. Last year, the fire department, for instance, lost a pump in a truck. There was talk, a little bit of talk about having a special town meeting to come up with the money for that. We first gave them the option use your budget. Which they did. They got through it fine, but if they came up against it towards the end of the year, we would have done what we needed to. If they needed a little extra money, the contingency fund now will be there for that, but this is more the proper way of doing it.
Okay, my next comment is.
Question, Robin, question, Councilman? All right.
The other issue you're gonna have also, Robin, is, so say you take, you're creating $30,000 a year, okay? So if you create $30,000 a year, your budget say $100,000. Just what your numbers make
Right,
easy.
yeah.
So now you got, can't hear me?
No.
So where I'm going to is, going with this is this. So the first year, that'll work. You're gonna feel warm and fuzzy because you have an extra 30,000 because we put that back in there. But the next year, you're gonna do your budget. Budget committees, everybody else gonna see, well, you have all this money, so they're gonna just deduct that 30,000 every year. So you're gonna end up with the same money anyways.
So
Keep going.
why can't we put it in a capital improvement for that department? per se?
We very well could, but you also have a general fund at the same time. Every department's like the roads,
Yeah,
when they increase the money from FEMA, whoever, it goes to the general fund and then it's allocated at town meeting. But the town meeting, when we give an article that says, this is how much you're supposed to spend, like the transfer
Yeah.
station was supposed to spend.
yeah.
Okay,
And I hope
that's what
about
you're gonna stay with. Okay, but you have to vote that in every year. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because you're only allowed to spend that.
But it will go into a capital improvement for that department.
Just one other thing, if we were to start peeling off revenues and putting them into whatever kind of account, it might be at the discretion of departments, that means those revenues would not be available to reduce the tax burden. So the tax rate would go up. If you sequester those revenues that are currently being used to lower the tax burden and set them aside, everyone's taxes are going to go up. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, I couldn't support that.
Thank you. All set, Robin? Thank you. All right. Ray, additional comments or questions on Article 3? Ray?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, Selectman Ward made a comment early on talking about cutting some of the services to that particular department. I was wondering if this has been thought of and what services would they be cutting?
Question about cutting services?
It wasn't, this whole thing came about after the end of the fiscal year. So this is where we sit now with this. As far as cutting services, if we got close to that point, you're still gonna get rid of trash. That's a safety hazard and a health hazard. I could foresee cutting back on the amount of demo that comes in. That would be really the only spot that we could cut back. You can't cut back on the number of days that we're open. You've still got to get rid of your trash. But we could cut back and say, we're getting real tight on the budget. We're almost over. We can't at this point take your demo. Your building that you tear down, your fence that you rotted fence you tore up. You may have to wait until after the new fiscal year kicks in July. Cutting labor up there would be the absolute last thing. I couldn't see that happening really at all, because we need the people that we have there to do what we're doing. So did that take care of your question?
Additional comments or questions? James?
I got a quick question. You said if we would have already approved the contingency for Article 2, like last year or whatever, we wouldn't have to deal with Article 3 this year. So we did approve it. Do we have to approve Article 3?
Yes, we do. It's not, we haven't gone through this whole process yet.
So I'm saying you have the contingency fund now.
I mean,
You voted on it.
I guess I'll leave that to
You'll notice Article 3 is for the prior fiscal year. So the contingency is for the current year. So we can't use that to cover prior year expenditures.
So you can cover it for Article 4 then?
No, we're not there yet.
I'm just asking.
I know, if you want. You put us on notice, James. Thank you. Additional comments or questions on Article 3? Seeing none, the motion on Article 3 is to adopt the motion as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your purple cards. Thank you, hands down. Those opposed? Article 3 is passed as written. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $14,150 from the unassigned fund balance for transfer station expenses for the current year, FY 24-25. Select Board recommends approval of the article. Warrant Finance Committee recommends also approval of the article. Leslie,
Make a motion to accept Article 4 as written.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dennis? Okay, moved and seconded to adopt Article 4 as written. Comments or questions on Article 4? James?
Can you answer it?
Ask it again.
All right.
The-
Can you use the money from Article 2 to pay for Article 4? Because you said you had it done already, that's how you did it.
Go ahead.
You want me to-
Yeah.
So the belief is this, the 14,150.
There you go, put the mic up. There you go. Okay.
Okay. The $14,150 is roughly what we spent on to cover the cost of the rental of the machine and stuff, okay? Now, what we're worried about, we're not sure this coming year whether or not, what the demo's gonna be. Okay, so hopefully we can with that. So we're accounting, Article 2 to be a buffer, okay? So it's a safety mechanism.
You want to keep that?
We do.
That's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, we don't want to spend anything, we don't want to spend any money out of Article 2 unless we have to. But, when we were doing our budgeting last year, we talked about possibly doing a contingency fund for each department. We ended up doing one for the town hall municipality, okay? It was an oversight on our part, we should have made it more broad, so we, it's like when Wayne come in last year on the fire truck.
I've seen people in the back starting to strain on here.
So when the fire department came in last year, they lost the pump on the fire truck, they weren't sure they had the money or not, okay? We did tell them, okay, go into your mechanic, your line items for that, do what you can, and we'll cross our fingers, and, we have to, we'll do something like this, but it worked. But, by approving that, it's more than just the transfer station, it's for everything. It's for all the departments, so I think when Tom said that, it's just kind of giving a broad example of what we can use it for.
What the Article 4 is just for.
Yeah, Article 4 is just for the transfer, but the Article 2 is everything.
Right.
So I think what, Jim, to make it a little more clear, so if we have 31,000 and we go ahead and spend the 14 out of it, that's gonna leave us 16, 17,000, and we know that based on demo costs, we already went over 10,000, so now we're down to 6,000 or 7,000 in the contingency fund for an entire town for the rest of the fiscal year. So it's just, they normally would have, but the numbers are just too tight, knowing the demo's already gonna go over, this is just a safer bet.
All right, thanks.
Additional comments or questions on Article 4? Seeing none, the motion on Article 4 is to adopt the motion as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Take your hands down. Those opposed? Article 4 is adopted as written. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $55,819 from the unassigned fund balance for the purchase of a skid steer. Select Board recommends approval of the article. Warrant Finance Committee the same on a 5-to-1 vote. Leslie,
I make a motion to accept Article 5 as written.
is there a second? Joyce seconds the Article 5. Are there comments or questions on Article 5? Paul. Then James. Paul first, and then James. Come on up.
8 or 10 years ago, there was a skid steer purchase for the transfer station. That's just from my Swiss cheese memory here. I didn't actually look it up. And I'm wondering how this fits into that in terms of department, and if it's for the same department, is this a replacement? Is this going to be a second unit for the transfer station? Just how is that all going to work?
Thank you, I can answer that. The skid steer that was purchased to speak of was 2006. How about now? It's about okay. Yeah, that skid steer was purchased in 2006.
17 years.
Yeah, so that's the skid steer that we have now. The problem we have a mechanical.
Went out again.
Okay. The skid steer that we have now has a mechanical problem. It has a major oil leak. We took it to United Ag and Turf in Sanford, which is the John Deere dealer, which this is. They took the machine in, took it apart, found the problem. The problem is about a $14,000 repair on a machine that's worth about $10,000, $10,000 to $15,000. We as a board did not feel as though it was the right thing to do to put that much money into a machine this old. The machine also has 2,700 hours on it, which these machines can go, 4,000 or 5,000 hours or better. But once again, we didn't see where the dollar value was appropriate to put into this. So we thought we probably should look at replacing it. We've spent upwards of close to $3,000 to United Ag just to find out what the problem was. We did have them put it back together because it's no good apart. Put it back together, bring it back to us, and here we are tonight. We went out to bid. We got bids ranging from this particular dollar amount, which is the lowest bid, up to $70,000, all for fairly comparable machines. I say fairly comparable because every manufacturer is slightly different, but the machines that would fit the bill to do what we're doing up there. So that brings us here tonight. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on Article 5? James?
Quick question, the one that is at the transfer station now, is it just for the transfer station? Or is it a town machine that we use for anything in town?
It's a town machine, but the only department we have in town that has a use for that would be the transfer station. We don't have a highway department, per se.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, it's dedicated to the transfer station.
so it is dedicated to the transfer
Yes.
station? So, okay, it just doesn't say it's for the transfer station, that's all. Just
Oh,
for the town.
okay.
That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah,
don't- I mean-
but it's the only department in, it's the only department in town that really would use the machine. Like I say, if we had a highway department, we'd probably own two. I hate to say,
So
but
it's designated just for?
yes, yes.
Additional comments or questions on Article 5?
And
Robin?
just for everybody to know, the new one is a lot more safety. We have a backup camera. We have a door in the front that detects the person that's driving it, pushing the brush up and everything. So I recommend that we get this.
Yeah,
Additional
AC.
comments or questions on Article 5? Great.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. This is like they put this out to bid, and this is one of the lowest bids they've got. Is this a used machine, and if so, what year is it?
No, it's a brand new machine, right fresh off the floor. 2024, 25, whatever the newest is, it'll be, it's brand new. It's a Kubota versus the John Deere that we have now. Both Selectman Winchell and I went and looked at the particular machine. We tried it. It's still on wheels, not tracks. Fits the bill for what we need. We looked at the specs on the machine we had, and we transferred those specs to the bid, thusly coming up to where we are.
Additional comments or questions on Article 5?
So we went down and tried out this piece of machinery, and I obviously know equipment, and I'm a cat guy. Most everything I buy is Caterpillar, but after we checked
David, you
out-
gotta be small on that thing.
After we tried it out, and we looked at the way the thing was built, I felt this was a very good option to go. And I myself, even if I was buying this one, I think I'd go there with myself.
Additional comments or,
Forks and a pusher with it too. So a fork and a pusher.
Leslie?
What's the warranty on it?
2 years.
Additional comments or questions on Article 5? Roland? I did, it took me a while.
Quick question. why are we buying a pusher? It was found not to be utilized on the last John Deere, same size, 8 foot, and they found it ineffective. Why the additional cost? I mean, I understand that Quick Blade is probably not a great portion of that $55,000. However, you know, anything we can save money on, why not? Anybody want to answer that question?
Hang on.
Am I close enough?
You're close. Thank you.
I don't know why anybody would tell you that the pusher was ineffective. I've got pushers on my skid steer, they were great. We just added in the price. Actually, what we're getting for a price on this piece of machine, we can't buy just the machine before. We're getting implements for free, pretty much for the mouse at the end of the day. So.
I just don't want to see it sitting beside the,
And we don't want to either. And we figure with the pusher, what the pusher works good for is when you get off-road down by the brush pile and stuff like that, where it's thawed, you can push. I use pushers all the time, and if you can't utilize that pusher, you're doing something wrong.
well, obviously, the former superintendent must have been doing something
You
wrong.
must have been doing something wrong.
Because
All right, we're not going that, we're not going to attack anybody. Okay, okay.
you know, bought a brand new blade
Yeah.
for John Deere. It did not get used because they found it to be ineffective.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments or questions on Article 5? Yes, sir, tell us who you are. Come on up.
I'm Robert Dennis. Question was, on the old machines, do you use any portion of that money as trade-in, sell it, go towards purchasing it?
That question was asked to the dealer that we're buying from. What we're getting is municipal pricing on this, and the pricing is so low that they're not really interested in taking trades in on it. So the man off the street or woman off the street can't go in and buy this machine for this particular number because it is a municipal bid and a municipal
Right,
price.
I understand that.
So
I-
our hopes,
all the time.
our hopes in the future is to put this up to bid and sell it, and that money will go back into the undesignated fund.
Okay, so
Yep.
I'll go back to the-
No, back into the fund for everyone to buy from.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions on Article 5? Additional comments or questions on Article 5? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt Article 5 as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your purple cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed? Article 5 is adopted as written. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $90,000 from the unassigned fund balance to increase Acton's law enforcement services with the York County Sheriff's Department and purchase a new patrol vehicle. This will increase Acton's coverage from 20 hours to 40 hours a week, therefore no longer sharing this contracted services with the town of Chaplin. Select Board recommends approval of the articles written. Warrant and Finance Committee also recommends approval of the articles written on a 5-to-1 vote. Leslie,
I make a motion to approve the article as written.
is there a second on Article 6? Been moved and seconded by Joyce to adopt Article 6 as written. Are there comments or questions on Article 6? Yes, ma'am. Oops. Tell us who you are.
Good evening, my name is Linda Holzer Thunman, and I just had a couple of questions. I did do my due diligence. I watched the video from the select board meeting as well as the warrant and finance committee, and I have a couple of questions. The first one is, are we voting for the car, or are we voting for maintaining a deputy sheriff? For example, do we have to have 40 hours to buy the cruiser, or keep the deputy at 20 hours but still need to buy the cruiser?
So we're voting on not just the car. If we take on a full-time deputy, a 40-hour deputy, we need to buy the car. So it's both.
So if we keep the deputy, if we keep it status quo, 20 hours.
Right.
We don't need the cruiser.
We don't know. If we keep,
Hold on.
if we
John, okay.
keep the status quo, no, but we are scheduled to need a new cruiser this year anyways, which we'll be splitting with Chaplin.
And the cruiser, $90,000.
The cruiser is $53,000.
So if we keep it at 20 hours active, 20 Shapley, it's I'm sorry, what's the amount again?
Well,
53 divided by 2.
right now, we're paying about $73,000 for our half of the sheriff. That's what we have budgeted for a sheriff. If we get a car also, which we will be, we'll be splitting the cost of the car with sheriff.
And in the warrant and finance meeting, it sounded like Shapley is in fact going to a 40-hour week deputy.
Not to our knowledge, no, they are not looking at that at all.
That was mentioned at the warrant meeting, so the answer today is
No, they are not. They are, as far as we know, they are staying with the contracted sheriff with hopefully another town if we adopt this.
Okay. And from the select board's thought, the crime rate in Acton is high enough that we need a 40-hour, or do you see a potential increase in crime that we need to go from 20 to 40 hours?
Well, we've had some comments from citizens asking about this, and we just started looking into it. And, I have statistics here with our crimes, and, in the last year, we've had, 1,594 calls in Acton.
What type of crimes?
We've got burglar alarms, we've got OUIs, civil complaints, disturbances, domestic disturbances, medical emergencies, vehicle crashes, harassments, larcenies, mental health calls, wellness checks, things like that.
But those calls have always been covered by deputy sheriff, maybe not the 20-hour, but having backup calls. We've always had our calls
We've always,
answered.
exactly, and we'll continue to have that. This is going to be a 40-hour week sheriff. He's not going to be on call 24 hours a day. So we will still be contracted with York County for 911 emergencies for them to come.
There was a comment made at the warrant and finance committee that it potentially would be more of a traffic detail call. Is that the feeling from the board?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, it will give us, we, in the past year, have contracted quite a few 4-hour blocks with the sheriff's department to send out an extra sheriff just to do traffic details. And those cost $300 to $400 a piece.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Yes, sir.
Dan Pelkey. Couple quick questions for you. Number one is, you mentioned the crime rate before. You said, what was 2023 versus year-to-date now?
I don't have the 2023, I have the year-to-date, or the past year, it was
What was the past year number today?
1,594 calls.
1,594. So this year, it's currently sitting at 1,211.
Okay.
So approximately 25% decrease in calls from year to year. Now, whether we spend this money or not, the sheriff's office still comes when I call 911, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. If the sheriff leaves town, who is charged for that? Are we charged for that, or does the county pay for it?
If the sheriff leaves town, our understanding with sitting with the sheriff, Sheriff King, was it's an emergency. Other towns will have their contracted sheriff calls.
Correct, but not every town in York County contracts a sheriff deputy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so, for example, the 20 hours that we have a sheriff deputy in town for, there's no guarantee he's actually in town for those 20 hours.
There is not.
There's not a guarantee of that.
No.
Okay. So, for example, as cited previously when talking about the transfer station, when we discussed, if there's an overage or an under amount of money available, Waterboro is dealing with a problem with their contract right now, in the sense that they are spending X number of dollars, but every time that deputy leaves town, they are not billed for that. So Waterboro has this excess amount of money in their budget. So that $90,000, we might only get billed $60,000 of it. What happens if the other $30,000?
The way that contract works.
But it is the way the contract works. If the deputy leaves town, we are not charged for him leaving town. It's billed on the county general fund. So the excess money that we have.
That's not how it works, because the problem is, the way it works is, it's like our car.
Yeah.
Our car, you see it another town. So our car that we have,
Yes.
it says Acton on the side of it, that car will be in other towns working, okay?
Correct.
We don't get paid for that, okay?
No,
We don't get reimbursed.
you don't get reimbursed for that, but you're also not charged for it either.
No, what they do is they'll make the hours up somewhere else, as long as we get our 20, the way we're working right now.
Okay.
So, and because I had an issue with that. I had an issue with our car being in another town. But the problem is this, when we hire that deputy for 40 hours a week between Acton and Chaplin, you know, that deputy wants to go get overtime. We're not willing to pay the overtime.
Correct.
So they put that deputy into a regular route so that he can make his overtime.
Correct.
We don't get compensated. Now, we did try to get a thing from the sheriff's department, a list, of what calls are going out on, other than the town ones, and we couldn't negotiate with them, they wouldn't negotiate with us. But no, we don't get recompensation.
I've worked in county law enforcement for 2 decades now, and I can categorically say the 20 hours a week that we spend on a deputy, he's not in town for 20 hours a week. And I can guarantee the 40 hours a week that we spend on a deputy, he will not be in town for 40 hours a week.
Okay, thank you.
Ginny, originally, did we split one deputy between Chaplin and Acton? So 20 hours in Chaplin, 20 hours in Acton. If we have someone for 40 hours, will it be that person or will it be a completely different person?
Right now, we don't know. We haven't contracted with them. We would be looking at whatever the sheriff recommends, I suppose. There are pay scales, so we could be looking at a sheriff that's on the newer side for $120,000 a year up to $150,000. So that would be, is that an answer for you?
Yeah, we don't choose them, it's a person.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Yes, sir. Tell us who you are.
Could you share the data, the year-over-year data that would justify 100% increase in hours for the deputy?
So,
I guess what I'm asking is, what sort of thought process did you use to come that we need to have another car and another, is it just, oh, you got some people that want to have this? Or do you have hard data that says we have an increase, all this stuff? Shouldn't be a hard question.
Well, with the car, it's an easy answer. The car that they've got, they're putting out of service, they won't run it no more. After, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, I guess they're gonna put them in another vehicle. On the deputy, we're not going 20 to 40 hours.
Was there any?
Yeah, well, what was, we if you watch the meetings, we have people come up all the time, they're flying on this road, trucks going too fast on that road, East Shore Drive, we get complaints on that. So, what we're doing here is just giving the town an opportunity to do this. Okay, that's our job. When we hear people complain about this stuff and, stuff, and, I listen to this,
But you need to get up to the mic to start out with. And we're not having a conversation. What is your question? Start out.
Oh, no, I didn't know that was the question.
Okay.
When you said if there's any data, or did you do it just because people came up? And I guess, yeah. Well, with the data that we get every month, and we see the list of things that are the complaints, and some of the stuff that's going on is, a lot different than it used to be. We just thought this was a good opportunity at this point in time to do it. Because, we've been putting out 4-hour blocks here, 4-hour blocks there. We figured we'd throw it in front of the town, see what they thought.
Thank you. Robin, Article 6.
I have heard that a lot of the towns in York County are getting out of the contract deputy, due to they pay their county taxes. That's one question, well, that's one comment. And the other one, we have 2 departments in this town that run in their own vehicles, on their own gas. Yes, they do get reimbursed, but and you said it to David, that if their insurance found out they were running it on town profit, on town time, their would go up. And you said that at a meeting.
So, Robin, what's the question?
Yeah.
Tell us
the
what
question is, how come we're buying a cruiser? Why don't they, the deputy use his own cruisers, like our fire chief and our code enforcement?
Okay. Anybody want to tackle that one, John?
So the way that the sheriff's departments work is that their deputy has to be in the car. They will not have the deputy in like an unsafe vehicle or any other vehicle because they put all the equipment, all the resources into that vehicle. So if we wanted to stick with the deputy, we have to provide a car. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have a deputy. So it's not really our choice or option, it's what we have to do.
Right, but also our county tax is paid for, and also the two departments that we have in town that use any personal vehicles came to the select board and the warrant finance, and you guys never even put it on the warrant.
So I'm going to answer that question, because they did come forward to us about vehicles, the code enforcement and the fire chief. The fire chief has a vehicle he can drive. He just doesn't do so. The code enforcement officer, we've given him an opportunity to do it through his budget line. He's looking at that now. I have never said that if you drive your private vehicle to a fire scene, it's a liability, because if that was the case, then we would not be able to have a volunteer firefighter go to a fire call. I did not say that. So the requirement on the vehicle for the sheriff's department, that's part of the contract. That's where it was started at the beginning, and that's the way we keep going. Rob and I do have the same, some of the same thoughts about how we do pay our county tax. But at the end of the day, we rolled into this back 10 years ago. 10 years ago that we started this. It's worked. People feel warm and fuzzy inside, and we keep doing it because it makes them feel good. If they don't, then they won't vote it back in. So we're just giving an opportunity to increase the control.
We believe that's what's going to happen.
I do just want to add that sounded like mine when we think of our emergency vehicles, why we started going to a full-time fire department and having them there, because when a call does come, it's nice to know that they're seconds away. And heaven forbid there is such a case where our sheriff, our deputy, is not in town and it takes them a long response. Thinking of things that have happened in the state recently, thinking of what happened at Sanford and those emergency scares, knowing that we have an officer who's more in town more often and closer in case we do ever face something more serious. I mean, that's just the sound of mind for that perspective.
Good. John, you want to go add to it? Okay, additional comments or questions on Article 6? Yes, sir.
Bruce Martin, I live in Acton, of course. Why don't we just pick up the other 20 hours that Shapley's not going to have? We don't need a police car. We don't need a police department. It's a lot simpler ordeal. You just said it. We're happy with it. Why don't we just leave it the way it was? Just pick up the other 20 hours.
I'm not quite sure what the question.
I think that's what they think they're doing.
You're buying a car.
Well, I have to buy the car.
So what you're doing with the sheriff's department, don't they supply the car?
No, we buy the
We
car.
buy all those cars?
The pyramid.
Answer that question. Thank you.
Okay. Additional comments on Article 6. Go ahead. Yes.
One question.
Susan, get closer so they can hear you.
One question that I have is the payment that you pay to the York County. It's a little under 500,000, is that correct? No, the payment for the York County.
For our county tax.
In which I realize that covers the courts and the jail, as well as the sheriffs. I do understand that. But what I get, and it was when we first went with this, 20 hours just seemed like, the emergencies and the crimes are not going to happen in that 20 hours. They're not going to happen necessarily in that 40 hours either. The emergencies and crime happen 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The other thing that I've noticed is, I think it's every month, you read the crime report, and it seems like most of the calls are going to Shapley.
That's not true. I've got the statistics right here. We get more calls than Chaplin.
Really? Because whenever she reads it out.
Well, those are the most notable, what they consider the most notable from the prior month. But from January 1st to 2024 to where we are right now, we've got 1,594 calls. Shapley has 1,535. So they're almost split, but that report that I read off is just the sheriff's department considers the top 5 or 8 most notable things that happened in Chaplain.
So what is the benefit of having them with 20 hours? Because emergencies and accidents or whatever, crime, doesn't happen just within those 20 hours. So that.
So you're basically, you're advocating for none, then, basically. Why are we doing it? Is that what you say that, then? Okay, all right.
I am.
Okay.
Definitely not for it. And then I also heard, and I realized I didn't hear it from you, but that you would like to definitely move in to having our own police department.
Who did you hear that from? Because I'm curious, because it's not something that...
Okay, so wait, we're going to have discussions going on. That can be your opinion, but that's not on the agenda for tonight, okay? So.
But it is part of, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what we had discussed, can you hear me?
No.
We were... Still can't hear me? Okay. So we, Ed and John did go to some towns, and we were, get some costs, and, we're looking at our options. Because the reason why we're looking at these options is...
Hey, it's gone out again.
Going on again?
There you go.
So, it's kind of, my mustache is hitting it, so. So what we did is we had those guys go over and they met with a couple towns and just to see, what the cost is, what it would take to, to do something like that. Because the problem we're having is, the last time we went into our negotiations, we got a 1-year deal. We only got that 1-year deal because we weren't sure whether or not the sheriff's department, they weren't sure if they wanted to continue on with this program. So that we were looking out going, okay, well, people seem to be happy with the 20 hours you get now. If that drops the door, the bottom drops out on that, what are our options? So we started looking at other options. At this point, we looked in, the numbers that they were coming up were pretty expensive. We thought it probably wasn't going to be something that we were going to be able to put to the town and want to go spend that kind of money. When this opportunity came up, it was a lot cheaper than going to a full-time police department.
Thank you. I guess my only question is, what's the benefit of the 20 or 40 versus the yearly cost that we pay the county?
We actually used to have a 3-year contract, and it was either a year or 2 years ago. The sheriff put us on a 1-year contract. And at that time, we were told they may not continue the deputy sheriff program. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to contract one of those officers. That's what started this discussion. He seems to now have softened on that issue. But it was just very difficult to do a contract negotiation with them. They gave us a contract, no changes, they wouldn't take any input. It felt like, to me anyways, we were just being told, take it or leave it. The rumors about not extending and so on. As far as I'm concerned, the issue is response time. That's, and I know it's not 24/7. It's not 24/7, but I think it's troubling for me that we might have a sheriff whose laws indicate 20 minutes away in the middle of something that maybe you shouldn't wait 20 minutes. And I can appreciate everyone's point of view on it, where they, someone would say, no, we don't need any, or 20, or maybe we need more. And quite frankly, we wanted to put it on the ballot to learn what people thought about it. And so.
Additional comments or questions? Dean, Article 6.
Do we have any indication that they will continue a contract after the end of this work? My understanding is they're done. They don't have enough manpower and they're taking back their own patrols. So if that's the case, and if Shapley is not funding, and we have a car, what happens to that car?
We met with the sheriff, Ed and I met about a month and a half, 2 months ago with them, and they have no plans at the current time to drop any services.
That's not what I get.
Well,
But I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we have either the sheriff here, somebody from Shapley to represent what they're going to do, so that we can actually take a good vote.
Okay, so moderator says we don't like tabling. The rules basically say, if you don't like this proposal, vote against it. That's basically what the rules say. Don't leave stuff hanging when we're all assembled here and we're discussing it. Well, okay, I understand that.
So there's no way you can legally, should be voting if you don't know what's going to happen.
No, Dean, and then, I guess I can answer one of the questions that you did ask about the car. It's like the one out there, they're discarding, that they're not gonna be able to use. We're hoping to do some sort of deal with Shapley to buy it out or whatever, hopefully to use for one of our town employees. And if the car that we buy through this deal, and say we only get a year or two on that contract, same thing, we just buy out Shapley, or they can buy us out one or the other.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Robin?
When will our contract run out? So this 90,000 is going from December to June, can we vote on it again?
No, if we vote yes on it today, then it would continue forward from then on. That $90,000 is to pay another half of the sheriff's salary and the car. We already have half the sheriff's salary paid.
All right. So this had to go on this special town meeting to get it through. We couldn't have waited until April to get this. We have more input and you guys have more information for us.
Only because our contract runs out at the end of the year.
Okay?
So,
Big deal.
because the contract runs out in December, the town of Acton and Shapley have to make a decision. Are they going to negotiate and sign another one-year contract starting January 1st of 2025, or if you're going to split, now's the time. Shapley runs on a calendar year, not a fiscal year, so they're making that decision sooner. Because you run on a fiscal year, you have to ask the voters now. We can't start a contract in January if we don't know if we're going to do 20 hours or 40 hours.
Right, but Shapley is still in it. The comment that was made at selectmen's meeting was Shapley was getting out of it. Just FYI. That's what I heard, you know, I'm just.
There was a correction made at Shapley, at a board of selectmen's meeting. There was conversation at a board of finance meeting about what direction we believe Shapley was going in. The very next board of selectmen's meeting, if you follow it, Tom makes a comment and makes a correction. Shapley has not made any decision. They're waiting to see what happens tonight, period. They have not made a decision one way or the other.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Leslie?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that because I'm confused. At the Warren Finance meeting, we were told that Shapley was definitely going to 40 hours. At the next night at the selectmen meeting, we were told that Shapley was waiting for us to decide.
And that is
Now, John just said that Shapley's staying with you 20 hours. So there's 3 different scenarios being given.
Shapley has not made any votes on what's going to happen. They're waiting for the special town meeting to make a determination. If Acton goes to 40, then they're going to either have to find a new partner, go to 40 hours, or dissolve it. Everybody's contract ends in December. If you guys don't vote it, and you leave it at 20, then Shapley will probably sign another one-year contract with Acton. They will not make a decision until you guys make a decision tonight.
Yeah, because the votes perhaps from Warren Finance could have possibly changed if we had had all of this information.
But at the end of the day, we appreciate that, but it's a recommendation. This is the information that we have tonight. It's accurate as we believe it is. So we vote, and the towns can go from there.
And my other question is, has any analysis been done on response times and how it might change if we went to 40 hours?
We do have response time figures. I think our average response time here was about 12 and a half minutes.
And that was when the deputy was or was not on duty?
That's when he was on duty.
What about when he was not?
That I don't have.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Ms. Donovan?
This may be outside of the scope of the question, but has there been, where it appears as though the sheriff may have put you in a tough place, has there been any discussion about seeing if the Maine State Police would patrol, where I know they actually have their own cruiser and I don't believe you would pay for it?
Has there been discussion about state police taking over?
No, we haven't talked about that, yeah.
Listening to other towns in the area, such as Lebanon, they were trying to get them guys to go into a deputy, and they didn't. So what they did is they were relying on the state police. The state police no longer wants to patrol they want to be on the main state roads, highways. So we will get a state trooper now and then, but they don't patrol the area like the sheriff's department does, so.
So I'm actually a prosecutor, and I actually prosecute state police cases, and I don't believe that's the case.
That's what we were told. So, and in fact, we were told that too by the sheriff's department also. So.
I would talk to Lieutenant Burton, because I don't believe that's correct information that you can give it.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Tom?
Yeah, Scott Stair. So as poorly as all this seems to have been put together and presented to us, I certainly think we should vote it down.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? See Mary. Mary, yes.
Mary Stanton. A couple of things people should know, that it's a
No,
mess.
Mary, you're talking to me now.
Okay.
You're not
It's
going
a
to make a
mess.
speech.
It's a mess outside, and there's been no police officer when school gets out at 2:30, okay? We've been discussing this for a long time, and it would have been nice if we had this 20 hours, and he spent a few hours in front of the school at 2:30 with the lights flashing, so there's, no accidents, because we haven't fixed the road, we haven't fixed the situation. The other thing is, the cop has not been here when we had big things going on in the school. Now, supposedly when there's, 200, 300 people, a cop is supposed to be around to help with, if there's any disorderly stuff going on. Never shows up. So I would recommend that we vote this down, because this 20 hours isn't going to work, 40 isn't going to work. And I also believe there was one police officer who was our deputy, who lived in Wells, I believe. At one time, there was one. So if he brought the car to his home in Wells and had to drive here, that's a long distance.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Bob?
So we're really voting on $150,000. Correct, Mr. Warner?
I don't know. That's not the number I see. We're voting on 90,000.
Cost of the deputy, it's $150,000.
That's a question that you folks can answer. We're voting on $90,000.
Plus the car.
No, so the problem is we've already got money in the coffers right now to pay for part of this, okay? So unfortunately, yeah, you're paying $90,000 now, we've already got money in the account for that, for the other part. You will be in, for the next time we have a town meeting, yeah, you'll be going for $150,000. No, that would be, yeah, roughly, yeah.
The 90,000, just to be clear, represents 53,000 for a vehicle and 20 hours for 6 months for converting our current 20-hour part-time deputy to full-time. So that's $37,000. So 37 is 53, that's the 90. Next year, the vehicle won't be in there. What we will have, if this passes, is a total of $75,000 added to the budget to cover the other 20 hours that would be added onto this deputy. We currently spend 75 for half-time. We'll end up spending another 75 for full-time. So the sheriff's budget will be $150,000. The vehicle is a one-time deal. 5-6 years, we'll be back at it and maybe buy another.
So we already appropriated money for the sheriff, but because the Shapley goes from January to December, our money gets split in half.
So we run on a fiscal year from July to June. So we appropriated, let's say, 72,000, 74,000, half of the entire salary from July 1 of 24 to June 30 of 25 for 20 hours. That's our half.
For sharing the sheriff.
For sharing a shift for 20 hours. His entire salary is 140,000, let's say, roughly. So we appropriate half of that. So we have spent half of the 70 that we've gotten through the first 6 months of our fiscal year. The other 37,000 that we have is designated from January 1st to June 30th over 20 hours.
So you can just move that fund that we've appropriated for sharing the sheriff to putting it into a full-time sheriff.
Correct.
It's legal to just move that money
Because the
around.
money was appropriated for York County Sheriff Deputy Services in the previous warrant that was approved in April. You
Okay.
approved long.
The second question is, I didn't hear the answer about the car, what happens to the car if we lose the sheriff after a year or after.
The town of Acton and Shapley own that car. So the select
No,
board-
if we buy a new car.
So if we find a car that belongs to the town of Acton, the select board will have the authority to decide. If the sheriff's department dissolves it, it all goes away, or whatever happens with it, it's owned by the town of Acton, and they would follow the policy, warrant articles to determine how to dispose of it.
Town of Acton.
The town of Acton, we buy our own car.
The sheriff's department doesn't have any ownership at all to
No,
that.
they have stuff inside it that they would be able to take out of it if it's the town of Acton's car.
Additional comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to correct Mary, I think. She said that the sheriff's office doesn't come down here. He's here maybe once a week
Here being at the school?
at the school
Okay.
patrolling, making sure vehicles are going slow. I think that the 20 hours, obviously, he's able to cover that 20 hours is plenty enough if he's able to do that along with whatever else he has to do while he's here in town.
Thank you.
Yeah, he
Okay.
does cover.
Additional comments or questions on Article 6?
Hey, Ansel here. I have a question. Is there a risk that if we do not vote for the 40 hours, that Shapley could, at the end of this fiscal year, their fiscal year, not move forward with it, and then we would have to split the deputy with another town and the response times could be longer, so if we had to work with Waterboro or something else. So if we say no to this, and Shapley also says no, is there a risk that we'll then not even get the 20 hours because they won't renew the contract? Like, what are the risk factors if we say no to this?
John, for you?
I don't think that anybody, I'm going to speak only because I'm the budget committee chair in Shapley, so I don't, we don't have a warrant in front of us, so we don't know what the select board is going to move forward. I can't say enough times that they're waiting to see what Acton does. They may be happy to sign another contract with Acton, do 20 hours and 20 hours. They know there's a chance you're going to do 40 hours. If they do, then Shapley will make their own determination on what's best for them. But if it fails, there is a good chance that we can continue if the board decides with another one-year contract, assuming all parties agree. It's possible that Shapley can say, you know what, Acton's thinking about separating from us, we're not going to wait for that to happen again, we're going to do a 40-hour ourselves. They haven't made any decisions, they're not ready to go public with that until after Acton signs.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions on Article 6? Joyce? So is the motion to move the previous question. Is there a second?
Yes.
The moved and seconded and moved the previous question. So we are now going to vote on Article 6 without further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, which is to adopt Article 6 as written, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed? Article 6 does not pass. Fails. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $41,215.45 from the unassigned fund balance and place in the Peck Road Reserve account to finish the reconstruction and paving of the portion of the Peck Road from Milton Mills Road to the dirt. Any funds remaining in this account after the completion of the repair, or no later than 6/30/2025, shall be returned to the unassigned fund balance. Select Board recommends approval of the article. Warrant Finance Committee the same. Approval of the article. Leslie, for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the article as written.
Is there a second? So moved and seconded to adopt Article 7 as written. Okay. Comments or questions on Article 7? Ray?
Ray Lopez. I believe that this Peck Road, last time, from the last budget, the issue that was had with the Warrant Finance Committee, there's not a specific length of pavement that needs to be laid when it's going to the road or to the dirt? Is there a specific length that is going to have to be paved? Because I mean, you're paying by X amount of distance for the material. And wasn't this already approved as far as the budget from the last budget that they approved the Peck Road?
So what we come up with is this. First of all, the distance of the road, he went down from the road to the dirt, okay? I guess next time we could put down the footage, that'd probably be helpful. But we don't pay by the foot, we pay by the time. So what happened here was when another road commissioner was in that seat, he came to the town with a budget, and come to find out there was no money put aside in that budget to do the top coat of the road and the shoulders. That's the only thing we can come up with. Because of the way that we have the project set up in a 2-year, there's not enough money to finish it. Because of that line item not being put in there in the first place, that the money that's there will be lost, the job won't be done.
But the article that was approved was till 2025, so there's still money in there. And you're saying there's not enough money, so we need, how much money was approved in the previous budget for the Peck Road?
130,500.
And now you need another 41,215.
That, from what we come up, and Bill and I talked about this, that the top coat was not priced into the original bill.
And that's because the previous road commissioner did not.
So, in his defense, and I think in everybody's defense, we got to a new system, and I believe he was under the understanding that he could do his prep work under the summertime maintenance, this and that. He thought there was going to be enough money. But because the way we wrote up the article, he had to spend his money on just that road, could not touch the summer maintenance. Money had to come out of that one article. That might be another reason why, but talking to Will, this is what we need to finish that project. 26-4 right now.
If it's left, and
that's what's left
in the previous budget.
Yeah. So obviously, with not having the 41,000, we won't have enough there to finish the project.
Additional comments or questions on Article 7? Will?
Will and the road commissioner, we pulled all the invoices, we pulled everything to try to not have to do this, but the money was spent on the base, the reclaiming, and then the work came out of the summertime. So there's no other money to make it up, so this is what we have to do.
Additional comments or questions on Article 7? Ray?
Now, you just said that came out of the summer budget.
No, you didn't say that, I don't think.
I did, but it doesn't. It didn't. None
No,
of the money came out of the summertime maintenance. That was the problem. The original road commission believed he thought he could when he passed in the original budget. I think that was part of the problem. Okay, but we explained to him we cannot pull out of summertime maintenance for this project. This project, I wrote home. That's what all your funds come out of this one project. It was new. I think it was a little confusion. I think that's a lot of it. But now, obviously, we got to figure it out.
So from the previous budget, there were specifics that were put into place as far as this money goes to this project, right? So you said he did and he didn't put a lot of summer.
No, he didn't.
There was actually money left at the end of last year in the summer maintenance that perhaps he had intended to use during the project. But given the way this project was now set up, we have a discrete fund, and that is the only fund that could be used to cover the cost of the project. The summer maintenance money was not put in.
Right.
So if that money's gone into reserves, the extent to which there's an unexpended balance, this money's coming out of reserves. I don't know the exact amount that was left over, but to some degree, they in part will flow to that.
So for that specific budget, there's still $26,000 left out of the 140, 160,000? 130. All right, so I'm just trying to
So
understand.
let me see if I can explain it a little clearer. So in June of 2023, the select board.
We can't hear.
Okay, so one of the things that the select board have heard over the last couple of years is that they want to see road projects done completely. So the board came up with an idea that they were going to start making warrant articles, creating a reserve fund for just that specific road. So it was no longer, a little out of summer, a little out of this, a little out of that. They were going to name the road, this is a Peck Road Reserve account, come up with how much it's going to cost. You have this amount of time, they're giving them a year and a half to fix it. Do it in that amount of time and just be done with Peck Road. So in June of 2023, Article 26 created a reserve account in the amount of $130,500. Over the next several months, there were 10 different invoices that were sent in from the previous road commissioner that totaled $104,000. This was some prep work, this was some trucking, this was some material from Monarch. They totaled $104,000. The road commissioner left his post, new road commissioner comes in. We're saying, okay, we've got until June of 2025, based on that warrant article, to finish Peck Road. What is it going to take? So Mr. Langley went out there with the paving company, and they gave him a quote of $67,000 to pave it to be 100% done with Peck Road, which was the goal. There was $26,000 in there, so the difference in the warrant article is the $41,215 to pave it and be 100% done before June 30th. That's why we had to put it on a special town meeting, because if you go back to that article, in 2023, it will dissolve and go in the unassigned fund balance if he doesn't spend it. So this is the amount to have. There's no benefit to the road commissioner. It's the paving company that's going to come in and finish it, $67,000. We've got $26,400. It's just the difference. The Peck Road will be done.
So when this project was being planned, what all the costs and that presented to the select board?
Yes, but what Mr. Winchell is trying to explain is that, for one reason or another, they believe it's the top coat that wasn't budgeted in, something was just missed. The road commissioner was no longer in his post. It's not something we can go back and really dive into and have a conversation about. He's not in position anymore. We're dealing with what's in front of us, and that's what it's going to cost to finish it.
Okay. Once you get over that hump. Article 7. Are there other comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt Article 7 as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your purple cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 7 is passed as written. Article 8. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $9,000 deposit into the existing statutory reserve fund pursuant to Maine Revised Statute Title 38, Chapter 223, Subchapter 7, Section 5801-1, to assist road associations in preventing stormwater runoff pollution from reaching the Great Ponds, as authorized by 23 MRSA Section 3106. Road associations formed pursuant to 23 MRSA Section 3106 or Title 13B are eligible for funding if the requirements of 23 MRSA Section 3106 are met as determined by the Select Board and/or the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. The town shall fund the proposed repairs until the $9,000 is exhausted or June 30th, 2025, whichever comes first. Select Board recommends approval of the article. Warrant and Select Committee also recommend approval of the article. Leslie?
I make a motion to accept the article as written.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to adopt the article, Article 8 as written. Are there comments or questions on Article 8? Dennis?
I asked this question at the Warren Finance Committee meeting, and I haven't received an answer yet. My interpretation, the way this is worded, at the end of the warrant article, the town shall fund the proposed repairs until the $9,000 is exhausted, or until June 30th, 2025, whichever comes first. Does that mean that we won't be funding this account in the future?
Anyone answer the question? Is there a future for this account?
Well, that is kind of, because right now what we're doing is the road committee's working on an alternative way of doing some road maintenance for these private roads through the lake associations. So during these road committee meetings, which I think went pretty well, I did miss the last one, but we decided that by putting this money forward till end of this fiscal year, just in case there's any roads that do need to get some work done in the spring, that there would be funds available, because the funds that were in that account were exhausted. We're hoping that by the time town meeting comes around, we have a plan, an alternative plan to distribute money to more roads than they have been being done.
So my impression from that answer is the Board of Selectmen is not planning on funding this account with the statutory future.
We have not made that decision yet. We are working with the road committee, which is on board. Where's Mr. Ward? Was he up there? It is. If he could come up and maybe do a little bit more information, but we have not made that determination, but we are looking at going into a different route. I feel that if, as long as there's movement going forward, that we're going to go a different direction, that I believe that's why we're putting money forward now, because we believe that may happen.
Additional questions, Dennis?
I mean, the townspeople voted to start this. They voted to fund it.
Yep.
And if we're not going to continue with this Article 43, where it's a statutory account, that the townspeople would have to vote to do away with it.
I think that's what he suggested, that in the next budget, there may be some different plan. Jay is in the wings, so willing to add, perhaps add to this.
Okay. So there's my observation over the years, and the reason why this was started, and it's always going to talking about the roads. But the goal when this was started, and you were part of it up in Augusta there, is to protect the lakes. And there's been 100,000, 200,000, I don't know, people that have had the enjoyment of using these lakes by us doing this to help people on private roads to protect the lake. So to me, it's a lot more than just 4 or 5 or 7 or 8 road associations that collect the money, because they definitely pay far more than the $3,000 that we give them for a project. The benefit is huge with this Article 43, and I would just, unless we have something that to do better by April town meeting, I would ask that this selectmen do fund it.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Jay, for the road committee.
Yes, thank you. For the record, my name is Jay Ward. So we are working on an alternative for a change to Article 43. I think most of us all believe that it is a very worthwhile endeavor that the town has entered into. It was passed about 7 years ago. It was begun with $50,000, and over the years, it was, each incident was capped at no more than $3,000. And some projects came in under 3. So there were a number of projects that were partially funded, some fully funded. So it's worthwhile. So either way, come this budget cycle, we have to decide if we're going to fund it or we're going to do something different. So in reality, a vote here today, and I hope we do pass it today, again, it will get us through till the next budget cycle, and then we can discuss and decide what we want to do. So either way, it has to be done in the next budget cycle because the money is no longer available, the original $50,000. That's why I thank the select board for bringing this forward for $9,000. We think that that would be enough to get us through until the next budget cycle.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions on Article 8? Leslie?
My question is, we're talking about giving restricted money to the lake associations. And will the lake associations have to comply with the statute that the town has had to comply with? Because if they do, then we're in the same position that the town is with funding the private schools. There would have to be either statutory or a non-profit. I haven't heard any discussion about what those restricted funds, how they would be able to be spent. I think that would be a very good thing for us to investigate so we can much further in this process.
I think that's actually what the road committee will be doing. The question today really does not have anything to do with what might happen in the future. We're simply trying to fund a program that was put in place a number of years ago. It is now out of money, and we want to get enough money in there to get us to the end of the year. What happens in the future will be subject to continued discussion by the road committee, the select board, and the Warren Finance Committee.
Additional comments or questions on Article 8? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt Article 8 as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down those opposed. Article 8 is passed as written. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $45,000 from the unassigned fund balance for the purchase of land located at tax map 133, lot 40. Select board approves the article as written on a 401 motion or vote, and the Warrant Finance Committee also approved the article on a 4-2 vote. Leslie, motion.
Make a motion to approve Article 8.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by Joyce to approve Article 9 as written. Comments or questions? Roland.
Begin with, I didn't know that the town owned a boat ramp on Wilson Lake. No one seems to know when the town procured that boat ramp. However, I understand that one of the abutters to the boat ramp wants to sell some property. I understand also that the piece of property is very, very small, that we are talking about spending $45,000. My question is, why don't we give that boat ramp to the state and let them put in a proper boat ramp? They did it on Nelson, they did it on Square Pond. I don't think the town needs to be involved with owning property. We own 3 or 4 pieces of property outside of the municipal property, which do nothing for the town. I'm not saying that the boat ramp does nothing. I like the fish. I'm sure there's people going up to Wilson like the fish. But I don't think the town people should pay for the boat ramp. Thank you.
Additional comments? Additional comments or questions? Unless you want.
I was just going to kind of explain why this is an article. So as you were saying, this is adjacent to a piece of property, the public boat launch off of Wilson property on Ridge Road. And the reason this came of any concern, it was brought up by the Forestry Conservation Committee, because as this property was staked out, it was noticed that part of the stake goes into the drive for this boat launch. The concern was that if this property was sold to somebody else, we could see a similar situation that took place on Horn Pond up the New Bridge Road, where those property owners put up a fence and impeded that access to that boat launch, which was lost. The purpose of the town purchasing this adjacent property is just to ensure continued access to the people in Acton to be able to use that boat launch. No intention of doing anything else. There's also concerns by the Forestry Conservation Committee recommended that the town look into doing something, is that wildlife and fisheries, they will stock lakes that have public access. And there's concern that if a property owner were to buy that, put up a fence, and we lose access to that lake, it would impact that lake being stocked as well. So that is why the town is looking into it. It seems like the most easy solution to keep access the way it is for everyone in Acton to continue to enjoy that property.
Additional comments or questions?
Norm Lambert. I know now which piece of property you're talking about. How big is this piece of property?
0.026. 0.06. But it is enough that mistakenly we move that. Again, if someone were to do something because it would be their property, it would impact the ability for people to back roads to access that launch.
And is that price negotiable?
So the piece of property was evaluated, it came up to about 36, 37. So the price that we're asking is negotiated. Yeah, it was originally, they were asking 80 for it, and that's what we were able to get down and get past. That's what the determined would be the contract.
Additional comments? Yes, ma'am.
So I live on Point Road, which is not far from the school launch, and I just want to say that it's already pretty highly trafficked when people are, backing their boats in, and for pedestrians that kind of wander around in the road and how fast people go, it's really a dangerous corner. If there were a fence there, I feel like it would be a disaster as far as traffic goes and being able to back in a boat. So just like knowing that specific corner that I drive, every day to go home, I would definitely recommend that it not be purchased by somebody who put up a fence.
So you're in favor of this article? I'm trying to get people to express
Yes,
their
I'm in
opinion.
favor of it.
Okay, thank you.
Please pass it.
Okay. Judy, Article 8, Article 9, charter.
I'm thinking about all the people that live on Wilton Lake that have cottages and camps on Wilton Lake. A lot of them don't have any other place to put their boats in for their own camps unless they use that one. And they pay taxes to the town, and I don't think $45,000 is that big a deal for the town to pay to accommodate the people that are on the lake that don't have any other way to get their boats to their cottages. Most of the camps can't put their cottages in where they are. They can't put their boats in where they are by their cottage. They have to go someplace else. And I think in fairness to them, as well as to all the other people that use that boat ramp and for both summer fishing and especially for ice fishing, I think it would do us well to provide that for them.
Thank you. Additional comments on Article 9, James?
Couple questions. One, 45,000 is super cheap for a lot of the water. Assume it's not going to do anything. Two is, how long have we been using that versus property?
Well, so over the years and years and years, I know back when I plowed that route many years ago, we used to make a spot to get the ice fishermen off the road because that's where they park around that corner. And then when Scott was road commissioner, he did the same thing. We pushed that back, and that's where the property is. We were able to push that back, get the cars off the road. What my concern was when this came up, it's like, well, we don't buy this. Because I wasn't paying $80,000, none of us were. We negotiated this as much as we could. But at the end of the day, what we were concerned about is if we didn't buy it, then something like a fence or something went up, like put rocks or whatever, and we get to the point where now we're gonna have a traffic issue, and it's gonna come back in our lap anyway, so here we are.
So how long have we been using it? And then...
Nobody's giving you an estimate. There's some mumbling here, but it's
like
over 100
years, or 5 years, or 100 years? I don't know. And then, so right now, the way it's set up, you can't go to the boat line without crossing the property, you're just talking hard.
You can, it's a really narrow spot, and because where the property line comes out, to go in, you gotta always be straight with the road.
So are you able to get some trees cut down there, like DEP wise?
So if we buy the property, there's enough room there that we could improve it, with what's done now.
So will you guys get additional funds to improve the property at some point?
I think we're going one step at a time,
Yeah, it just leads to
it's all of what we're allowed to do. We don't, whatever DEP will allow us to do, but anytime you have a situation where you can get access to the water, and you may be restricted from it. I think it's proactive to go
It
ahead.
seems super cheap.
I also just want to state that our priority in this purchase is to preserve the boat launch as is. Those things, if something comes up, we'll do it that matter, but right now, this is all about continuing access to Wilson Lake for the people who live on there and for the people who utilize that for recreational usage. That is the main focus and priority on this article, is preservation, use as it is.
Thank you. Additional comments on Article 9. Ray?
The town of Acton, does the town of Acton own the boat ramp?
Yes.
Okay, town of Acton also owns the property that goes on that stream that goes from Wilson Pond over to Horn Pond, correct? Yeah, according to the map that I saw, that all belongs to the
What
town of
piece
Acton.
you talking about, from the culvert down to the other culvert? No, we talking about?
No. I'm talking about the stream that goes, that feeds off of Wilson Lake, and there's a stream that feeds into Horn Pond.
Yeah.
The town of Acton owns all of it. Okay. What is the assessed value of this property that you're talking about? First.
It's just under 37,000. Give me a-
Is there any plan on doing anything other than just purchasing the property so that nobody builds a fence or puts rocks there? Or is there gonna be any improvement?
That's what I just said earlier. The reason that this was brought forward to the select board was concerned that anything done to this property by another owner could impact the use that the town gets. The town benefits from it. We've heard from multiple people that have concerns about losing access. That is the purpose of this, is purchasing this so that we can continue access as is. Anything else are hypotheticals down the line, and very valid questions, but right now our concern is making sure that we don't, and the townsfolk do not lose access to this lake.
But you own the property where the boat ramp is at. How is the public gonna lose the access?
Because as stated, that property, where it's already on a fine line, it's already difficult to get in there. If a fence were to put up, we're gonna run into a similar situation that we saw down in Horn Pond, where an entire access to a boat ramp was lost because the fence got put up. If someone out to purpose that property, we can't tell them what to do or how it gets done, and it could impede people's ability to use it because they can't get around, they can't get boats down there plowing.
Go across the property line now to get in.
Yeah, but where the fence went up over on Horn Pond, there was no boat launch there.
No, but it impeded all the parking.
All right, we're having a conversation here. Ray? I think we're doubling up here. We're going over the
I
same
see
stuff.
that the assessed
Okay.
value was usually about 36,000. So their asking price is 80-something thousand, so we're giving them 45,000. The problem with the parking is never gonna go away. I live on Buzzell Road, and there are times in summer where there's cars and trailers parked on both sides of the road. Okay? This is not enough property to even try to put it, clear it out, put a lot in. I don't know if the Army Corps of Engineers will allow you to do that because it's on the lake edge there. But I don't see the value in purchasing a piece of property.
At the end of the day, the question this article is about, do you want to continue guaranteed access to this boat launch, or do you want to potentially put a risk that we lose access to that? That is what this article is about.
You have access.
Additional comments or questions?
We're not trying to make more parking area. We're just trying to make it so we don't have less. That's all we're trying to do here. Nobody said that we're going to make more parking area, but what we're afraid of is if somebody buys that and they get to the rocks right next to the road, then you have a bigger problem than you had before.
Additional comments or questions? Leslie, Article 9.
What's the size of the easement on that road?
The road easement, the road easement. How wide is the road?
Well, we only own to where the state does it. Because of that section of road, the state owns the high water mark. So,
No, the easement. Now, you keep talking about Horn Pond, and if I remember correctly, Horn Pond, the fence was put up in the easement, and I believe the selectmen had legal documents saying if we damage this easement, we're not liable. Because no property owner is supposed to put an obstacle in the easement.
but where the property line is is, it's not a 50-foot right away through there, it's gonna be a 32 because the pin is right there off the edge of the road.
I mean, I stopped to look and I couldn't find the map.
Oh, I got
They got knocked down, there's some people with hurry up photos, happening, but people could easily get knocked down.
So, I mean, it's a, if the pin's not there, how do we know exactly where it is?
Well, we do know where it is, we've got pictures.
Not here.
Okay.
Very frustrating.
All right, we need the microphone used here.
The
Leslie
tent
needs
was
to
lit
get
up,
closer.
we have photos, people took photos who came to us, the Conservation Forest Committee, other people who had these concerns. They got knocked down in the early, so they may not be there now, but we do have an idea of where they were and how they would impact the access.
I mean, and I have a problem with overpaying more than the assessed value. We just had a reval. And personally, I question the value of that particular lot, seeing as it's only 0.06 of an acre. There's nothing that can ever be done with that.
Okay, additional comments, Tom?
I don't think it's uncommon for people to sell their property for more than the assessed value. I think that probably happens a great deal in town.
Additional comments or questions? Yes, ma'am, tell us who you are.
Very young Bob Short. I just have a question. You mentioned the PIN. Was that done by a surveyor? And the survey's recorded? That's good. Do you want an interesting factoid or not?
Okay.
The town acquired the property from the state of New Hampshire back in 1980. And it says, and they acquired it from public service. And it's both sides of the road. But what's it recorded under? What's the name under the?
I have a copy of the survey in my office.
You do? Okay.
I'll see it. Thanks.
Additional comments or questions on Article 9? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you first of all for your service to the town. And thank you for letting.
No, look at me, no. You're not going to make any speeches, so.
Nope.
Okay,
But I have
do
to
it.
thank for the service. Thank you.
Perfect.
My wife and I own the abutting property. We just wanted to clarify that no changes will be made to that property without a meeting or something to go along with that. And that the survey that is on file will be clearly marked one more time before the final sale. And we do want the town to purchase that property so that somebody doesn't go there again and who knows what they're gonna do with that little property and what they're allowed to do. So it could be bad.
So the one thing that we've got to also understand is that piece of property can be joined with the one across the street. So if somebody bought the piece across the street, put a house there, they could use that as their
Yes,
waterfront.
as their dock.
And that could be an issue.
Yes. So, again, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that you do not intend to remove the trees and to create additional parking.
It's to preserve it as is, to preserve access.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on Article 9? Robin?
The question was asked if the state had contacted the state. Have they contacted the state? To see what they would even help us with this? Because if we don't do it and they put a boat launch on Square, they put a boat launch everywhere else, I'm just asking, town Acton just asking for some help from the state.
So the question is, has the state been contacted or offered an opinion on this?
No.
And why not?
I mean, we talked about the 20-foot boat launch, 30-foot launch there, and this is about preserving what is already there, and not, because I would imagine they would come in and do a few changes to that boat launch potentially. We just want to do that.
Additional comments or questions? Article 9, Bob?
So do we own over from that boat launch? Mr. Mulberry?
I don't have a picture of the piece. Over
So
what?
you have the boat ramp. To the right where the sign is, where the Wilson sign is, it tells you about Wilson. Do we own that property there? Does the town own that property?
Well, between the state and us, yeah. Because the state owns the high water mark, and we own the easement there, so technically we do. On the map, it only shows us owning just a little bit of that sliver where we're allowed to put the boats in. But nobody really owns, we own the road.
Do we own the ramp going in the water?
Yes, we do.
Do we own the property? Do we own the property on both sides there?
Just a little bit, and then when it comes on the road, that's where we, obviously, we own the road.
Okay, and that road is a two-rod road, or is that a 50?
I believe it's a two-rod. I believe, don't quote me, I believe it is because of the
Would you be able to go back and look at that up in town when you accepted that road? Is it town road? So it's probably a 50-foot road. Why not? You don't have any document on it.
Because I just showed you where the property marker is, it's not 25 feet from the center of the road. That's how you know.
Don't you need 15-foot setback on each side of the road? How much?
You can do a
All right.
20, 32, 50. That's the center of the road, so that 25, 25,000.
Hey,
Microphone, please. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions on Article 9?
Just one more comment. I'm reading the deed. Hold on, sorry. It says the dam, what was deeded to the town was the dam at the outlet of Wilson Pond situated in said Acton and the brook leading therefrom to Horn Pond together with the land adjacent to said dam, brook and pond, and the right to maintain and operate said dam at its present height and to raise the same by flashboards or otherwise, and to hold back, draw down, use, regulate, and control the flow of water, said Wilson Pond.
My map's not sure of that.
That's on the deed.
That's good. Okay. Right. Thank you for that.
Additional comments or questions on Article 9? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt Article 9 as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed? Ooh, pretty sure it passes. Anybody object? You don't count? So you object, is that what you're saying? Okay. So we're going to count it. All right, so we're going to do this stand-up kind of voting. So if you're in favor of the motion to adopt Article 9, or the Article 9 is written, please stand up, okay? You guys in the back, so we're going to need to see your purple cards, okay? We're counting all of those in favor of this motion. Okay, all those, everybody's already said that. All those opposed, please stand up with your purple card. Okay, all those opposed with your purple card, so we can see the card. Okay, so yeses 54, noes. Okay, 64, sorry. 64 yeses, 26 noes. So Article 9 passes as written. See no more comments. What I need is a motion to adjourn.
One comment.
Wait, no. Well, we're beyond the articles. No, article. Robin, what do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about getting some microphones so we all can hear you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, please raise your card. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you for everyone.